All right. So today we are talking about solving one-step equations with multiplying and dividing. This is 7-2. And again, we've got mild and we've got medium homework that you get to choose from depending on how comfortable you are with this. Please remember that the standard we're working on is really demonstrating that you understand the property of equality. So it's not just about can you solve the problem, but can you show that you understand the property of equality? And that requires that you know the symbolic method. Hopefully by now you know the sum and you are starting to really understand how to use the symbolic method. Remember that it's undo, solution, check, plug it in. And you took notes on that last time. So today, I just want to recap. Remember that when you have x plus 3 equals 5, and it seems really easy, and you know that the answer is 2, then I want you to realize that we're not practicing x is 2. We're practicing how do we set up this so we can prove that we understand that we do the same thing to both sides, and then we find the solution, and that we can plug it back in to prove that our answer works. And the reason is because of this equation right here. This is algebra 2, which I know you're not thinking about yet, but you will have to be able to solve this type of an equation. It still has an equal sign, it has a left side and a right side, and it has x cubed. You will be able to solve this, though, as you get further along. And the only way you'll be able to do that is if you keep track. If you try to do this in your head, you will not be able to do it, and you'll get a headache. So, moving back here, please turn to this page. You should have all of that top part complete. And we're looking at the notes on the bottom of the page. We started doing these earlier, but now we're going to complete them. So, we did these first two problems where you were undoing and giving the solution, and then you were checking to make sure that it works. We're going to do that same thing, but now we're going to do it with a multiplication problem and with a division problem. So think about this. We talked about how adding is the inverse of subtracting. Now we've got multiplying is the inverse of it's dividing. So we're going to do this problem thinking about, sorry you can't really see it, so let me see if I can remove part of this too so that we can see the rest of the problem. Okay, so we've got negative 7 times y. Even though it doesn't show it, we're thinking that that is what it is in our heads. Because anytime a number is next to a letter, it means multiply. So we have to do the inverse operation. Remember, we're doing undo first. So we undo multiplication by dividing. And please don't use the old-fashioned, don't use this symbol anymore. We're going to use a fraction bar. Show that on both sides, because remember, we have to do whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side. Okay? So we are dividing, but we have to divide by whatever was multiplied by y. Okay? So we're dividing by negative 7. Can't just be 7, it has to be negative 7. The sign of the number always stays the same. It's the operation that's the inverse. Okay, so now these two are going to cancel out because the negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. And so we just write y. Y equals negative 91 divided by negative 7. Now, of course, I have forgotten what this is, so I'm going to have to do the long division, but that's okay because I always get to use my calculator to check when I'm done to make sure that I get it right. All right, and then a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my answer is positive 13, or at least I think it is. Okay, then I need to check to make sure that it's working. So this is step 1, undo. This is step 2, solution. And now I'm going to erase a little bit so I have room to do the check. Undo, solution, check. Plug it in. So now I have negative 7, although you can't see it. Negative 7 times 13. And I have to see, is that equal to negative 91? You can go ahead and check that on your calculator, or you can do the multiplication. So I'm going to do that over here since you can't see my calculator. But I see, oh yes, it is 91, and because it's a negative times a positive, it is negative 91. So I write a check mark. And then I go back to my solution and I box it. That is correct. Yay! Again, if we got it wrong, then we would have to erase everything and start over. For this problem, looking at number 4, I've got a divided by 9. And I think, okay, that variable is a, and it's being divided. The inverse operation is multiply. So I'm going to multiply, and I have to multiply by 9. Please don't use an X, use a dot. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other to keep it balanced. And then these cancel out. I'm just left with a equals, and now I need to do this. Negative 4 times 9 is negative 36. That number needs to be plugged back in. Plug it in, plug it in. So instead of a in this equation, I say negative 36, and I divide it by 9. I do that in my head. Yes, negative 36 divided by 9 is negative 4. Check. And I go back and I box up my final solution. Looking at fractions. To get rid of fractions, multiply by the reciprocal. Make sure you spelled that right. So that means that I don't need to divide this by 2/3. Because notice it's multiplication, so the opposite would be divide. Even easier, though, is to remember, oh yeah, keep, flip, change. Dividing, I'll write it up here. Dividing by 2/3 is the same as multiplying by 3/2. So why don't we just do that right away? And that's what this little note says right here. To get rid of a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. And you can see right there that these numbers are going to cancel out, which is what we want. So we multiply this side also by 3/2. And then we have x equals, and remember this is 10 over 1. So 3 times 10 is 30, 2 times 1 is 2, and that's equal to 15. Don't forget, I have to check by plugging it back in. So I need to remember what the original problem was. So that's why I don't like canceling. I was just doing that so you would understand. But next time, I would not cancel. I would just do that in my head. Okay, so going back, we had 3 over 2 here. Okay, so we are doing 2/3 times 15. And that's 15 over 1. And I have to see, is this going to work? 30 divided by 3, because I multiply straight across. So 30 divided by 3 is 10, and that is what I was supposed to get. Check. So that means my final solution is x equals 15. I'm just going to go back and erase this, because I could have done this in my head. And I want my final solution. That's the most important part, because it's the answer to the question. All right. Next one. This is another fraction, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, 9 over 4, so that they cancel out. Then I just have w, but I have to multiply this side by the same number to keep it balanced. Remember, I can simplify as I go. This is 2, this is 1, because I'm dividing by 4, dividing by 4. It's actually negative 2. And then I multiply straight across. W equals negative 18. I have to check to make sure that works, so 4/9 times negative 18 over 1, and that does equal negative 8. Again, you can use a calculator. Go back and circle your final solution. If I'm going too fast, you can always watch this again. Right here, again, I'm doing the inverse. So I'm going to multiply, but you can't do, I'm doing the reciprocal. I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, because that's the same as division. Do not change the sign. This is a negative, so I have to multiply by a negative. You only change what you're doing. So in this case, I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, or I'm dividing by 6/5, negative 6/5. Okay, but I screwed up. You don't multiply by 6/5 because that would not cancel anything out. So my apologies, you multiply by negative 5/6 so that they cancel out. Okay. I just said I didn't want to do that so I could still see the problem, okay? And then multiply this side by negative 5/6, and this is 12 over 1. So I have k equals, and then this would be 60 over 6, which is 10, but it's negative 10. Okay, and then I check by plugging it back in. So I do negative 6/5 times negative 10, and I see, is that equal to 12? Well, I've got negative 60 which becomes a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive, so positive 60 over 5, which is 12. Yay! Box up your final solution. Lastly, try to do this by yourself. Pause the video. And then come back and see. Multiply by negative 2 over 1. I've got m equals positive 18, and let's check. Is negative 1/2 times 18 equal to negative 9? Yes! Box up your final solution. Okay, looking ahead to your homework, you should pick either mild if this is still a struggle for you, or medium if you feel like you're getting it. And please try to do the calculations yourself first, and then only check with the calculator. Make sure that you are doing all 3 steps. Show your work. That's the most important part. Otherwise, I won't give you a stamp. Have a great day.